across our agricultural sectors and our forestry sectors is something new in Canada. So looking at the bioeconomy as a sort of agnostic sector of opportunity and challenges and barriers, that's a huge necessary area for collaboration. So our academics are doing good research in our labs. They don't really understand what industry needs. They don't understand what industry is looking for. And industry knows exactly what they need, but have very little connection to academia in Canada. And the consumers in Canada are just learning to start to ask for bio-based materials, just learning to understand what sustainability means in both their, not just in their energy consumption, but also in their fabric and material, the stuff they use. We are exporting. In some cases it can be a broken business model in Canada, so I'll give you an example. We send our guys out to the bush to harvest trees, to make wood pellets, to sell to the UK, so that we can buy oil to put into our furnaces and buy polyester to put onto our backs. We live in the middle of a forest, we live in the middle of amazing agricultural opportunities. So in order to capitalize on that, we see the biomass it's the economic development tool for Canada, particularly for our Indigenous people. The people that talk about sustainability in Canada, we've been talking to ourselves a lot and preaching to the choir. So now it's the consumers are starting to demand it, but they also need to understand what sustainability is. So we could cut down an old growth forest and plant sugarcane and make ethanol, and that's renewable, but it's not necessarily sustainable on the triple bottom line that we measure sustainability. So educating our consumers around what sustainability means in the Canadian context is incredibly important, but it's also a huge market opportunity. Stitching, as I mentioned, stitching together the silos. Our First Nations in Canada are taking over jurisdiction and stewardship over forest resources as a platform for their economic development, and for us in Canada for reconciliation. It's incredibly important. And I think in the next 5 years we'll be working with our Indigenous partners to bring economic development to their communities and innovation into our marketplace. Well, in Canada, reconciliation, we have this process called Truth and Reconciliation. So we share what's happened in Canada historically in colonial times, and we build Canada's future together. We reconcile and walk the path together. So using natural resources, biomass was the primary input for First Nations technology for 30,000 years. They know about stewardship. They understand sustainability. They also understand that it's their mechanism to move into the modern world, that their children are going to be working in labs, not in bush camps. So it's to work to build this new sector together with them is of vital importance. It's incredibly important. So we've been tweeting and we've been building content on LinkedIn to build awareness in our network. But for the 9 delegates that we brought from Canada, they've said as of yesterday that they felt that World Biomarkets was already a net benefit for them. The connections they made, the collaborations that they've started to build, the new knowledge of what Europe is doing and what is portable to Canada has been an eye-opener for them. So we'll be back here for sure. But my grandmother is from Newfoundland. Was from Newfoundland, and when she was a little girl, her father was a lobster fisherman. So that was the poorest of the poor, and she would never have friends over from school because lobster was always on the stove, and it would be so embarrassing because people knew that they ate lobster and only the poorest people ate lobster. When she moved into central Canada and people paid a day's paycheck for a lobster, she thought, what the heck is going on? And I think in Canada, because we have an abundance of that resource, we haven't valued it the way Europe has, and that's something that Canada is just starting to step forward and understand, that just because it's abundant and we're rolling in it doesn't mean it's not a valuable asset.